Hello.
All right. Hello, hello. How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, okay. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so okay, let's give a couple minutes for some people to join. But I think the primary issue that I have is so subject type is definitely good. It should be able to be derived, right? But the thing that I don't necessarily think is a good idea is how close or how mirrored it is to the subject ID. You should be able to use the domain ID to derive the subject ID, but it shouldn't encompass a subject ID, which is what you're doing, which I don't think is a good way of representing that because now it limits it specifically to subject ID. So if a producer, for example, right, um, wants to represent this in a different form, let's say because he's using his own subject type, right? He would then need to still percent encode it, which is where I'm having issues, right? Like it's he should just provide all the necessary information without the encoding of anything, right? Because again, it should be derivable, not where you just like pull it off and then decode it and then you have it, right? Yes, that makes it easy from a machine standpoint, but in terms of a
Not
boundary,
only for machine. I have the example of artifact ID like today. Today I correlate service, for example,
mhm.
service and artifact because in service we have artifact ID. But but the syntax of an artifact ID follows a package URL format. But we don't have exactly the same value because sometimes we have the digest, sometimes we don't have it, etc.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have to create some kind of logic to reconciliate and to create a special match between those values to be able to create the correlation. Less we have this kind of policy, subject, ambiguity, easier it will be to correlate information. It's what I say, it's exactly what I say. If we
Yeah,
can match
that's
by
the
simply say it's equals, then it's the same, it becomes easier.
Yeah,
But
yeah, but that's what I mean by machine cleanliness, right? That's exactly what I mean, right? Because you're trying to solve for machine cleanliness to solve for this, where you don't have to write extra logic to do this correlation. But my whole point is you're really coupling, like you literally have the subject ID in there, like it's as coupled as
yes,
you can get, right? So what I'm saying is, no, that's not what this is for. You should be able to derive the subject ID from the domain ID. And if someone else wants to provide something that is different, because let's say they have a custom, a custom data format, then they should be able to put a custom subject type, and then you still should be able to derive the subject ID from it, right? Like I'm okay with the proposal. I just don't like that encoded bit
the,
is
the
what I'm
issue
getting.
with the issue with derive is like in mathematical, to derive something you have to write all the rules how something is derived, and it means more work just to encode or to
More work is
decode.
not a good argument. Like more work,
No, to um, today I will go back to package. Today we use package URL, and package URL is one standard that helps. I agree, but it's not how a Maven artifact is defined in Maven or in Gradle, or it is used in other systems. So I have to create all these functions to derive. When I receive an event from GitHub, to say, it's a Maven artifact, it is right this way. I have to create, and this logic is a is a pain to maintain and to clarify. It's what I mean. It's when if it's derived, it means that we have a way to read the previous input, and it means semantic and to clarify. It is if it's GitHub, then the next step should be read the next part should be read this way or this other way. If it's GitLab, etc., and it creates a lot of policy in several places and complexity behind the scene. And everyone will not be, and it's why if we have the subject ID, it's clear. That's
Yeah,
the
but
value.
like I said, but it needs to be derived because, if it's
The
just,
deriv is a same value, I could say.
well, I think what would be better if this is what it sounds like what you're asking for is not only do we add domain ID as a field, we also add subject ID because these are not mutually exclusive. If all three fields are known, they can provide all three. If only one is known, then they could provide one. If two is known, they could provide two. Because what I don't want to do is over or not limit the flexibility of domain ID. Because like I said, the whole point of domain ID is you might be talking to a system that you might not have all the information about, right? So all you can really say about it is, hey, this is some system A, right? We know that it's a pipeline execution and we know that the identifier, right? That might be all the information that you have, right? And so the purpose, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying with the whole purpose of links, the embedded versus non, is later you can do reconciliation if you get more information, right? If you eventually find out, oh, system A is, part of change, for example, you can then make that direct correlation to with an external link, right? So after the fact, mind you. So I think like I said, the purpose of domain ID is where you're not able to describe the subject ID nor the context ID with 100% accuracy. And what I mean by that is, or you don't know whether or not you have 100% accuracy. So what you do is you use the domain ID, hoping that when it gets to the system, they will have enough information to derive the subject ID or the context ID, right? But with that said, if they know the subject ID, they can just add that to the subject ID field along with the context ID if it's present, right? Would that be? I feel like that's a better solution rather than trying to repurpose. Because, like I said, the purpose of domain ID is more of a heuristic. Subject ID, you're trying to use it as more of a deterministic type of fashion, and right? But this is not what domain ID was for. It's for heuristics where you're trying to give enough information where a system, right, some event system can then derive this information, right? Yeah, it's a little bit more complex because the system that's sending it doesn't have all the information, right? But if they have the subject ID, they should just send that, right? I think that might be a better solution. Thoughts?
I also saw about having, as you mentioned, we have domain ID and else having subject ID, subject type
Okay.
as a side. It's another possibility I saw about. My issue is in this case, the format of domain ID is maybe too vague to be usable by consumer, because if each producer can put whatever he wants, it means it means that consumer maybe not be able to read it. And if we use your proposal,
Mhm.
uh, it's maybe not you will have to specify more exactly what are namespace, etc. And for provider, you cannot use, as I mentioned, GitHub, Jira, or Datadog. It's against the URN format.
Yeah. But like I said, like there is a
Mais
format, right? It's earn provider namespace instant type resource ID. So type was actually supposed to be subject type, not just like any random type. So that's actually subject type. Or no, I think it's just type. Yeah, pull request. Yeah, just actual type. But but yeah, like I said, that I agree. It's going to make it more difficult for consumers, but
because
this
for
data,
consumer,
yeah,
by
but this
the
data is not meant for consumers. Links are actually not meant for consumers. They're meant for a system that is aggregating and doing something with it, which that could be a consumer, but I usually think of like a middle like service layer that is receiving
but
the
it
seed
means that
events.
this service layer needs to be able to read. So it's a consumer. For me, if the data is not readable by a system, it's useless.
Well, a consumer
If
is
the
meaning,
data don't have the semantic and how to read and to create stuff.
yeah,
But
no, I mean we're getting into the weeds of like what a producer and consumer is, but the event system, you're sending the events there to be sent out. So I look at it as more of a middle layer, but either way, they are, they need to, do that was it resolution, right? And yeah, I try to put enough strictness where it's able to make some sort of inferences, and that's why I think provider would always be like the tool name is the point of that, and the namespace is like, like the team or the group or
no,
whatever.
for provider, no, it's what I read. For URN, officially, provider should be part of should be listed as part of a reference, the IANA registry. There is an official list. So if at some point in the future GitHub wants to use its own URN, GitHub the company, you cannot use the name GitHub because if they register, we will have a conflict. There is some rules. ESBN is referencing into this registry. Let me, maybe I still have the
Yeah,
link.
yeah. I mean, that's fine if you're using resolution for against that registry, but you wouldn't for a CD event. Like, why would you?
It's a standard. URN is part of the URI standard.
Oh, I understand that, but what I'm saying though is that this still would work, right? Like, unless the earn is like completely right. Um, but
The issue we could have is if it's a URN and if we use a library, a strict library to parse URL or URI, they can request to just use provider from the list at some point. And in this case, he will reject the parsing also.
I I I think you could probably turn that off as well for a library, right? So I'm not worried about that.
And anyway, in your proposal, after we have what we for each part of the name for each part of the name space for the
Mhm.
namespace, the instance, the type, etc. We we will have to ask the provider, the publisher will have to see what value should I put into here, what is the convention, etc. And
Mhm.
we will go back to one of the at some point one of the mess for pay URL. They start to specify if you are GitHub, blah blah blah, if you are GitLab, blah blah blah, if you are Git, blah blah blah, if you are etc. What is the value and it's not the value, and it increase a lot of the complexity.
But
So
yeah, it's complex because it's a heuristic. Like that, but you've been saying complex because it's a heuristic. Like that's literally why, right? Like if they know the subject ID, they just send that, right? Like if they don't know and they have partial information, like that's all they got, right? Like there's nothing else they can do about it, right? Unless you like, and like I don't think we should just be encoding a URL in there. We should be able to derive enough, or the system that's doing the resolution should be able to derive enough information to make a correlation. Like that's
if you want for the URN, if it's not a city event, I'll talk about your three example if it cannot be converted. It will be maybe easier for a user to have some kind of key value like into a query parameter part to say repository owner equal xbs, repository name égale repo, type equal pull request or PR or MR or whatever, it depends on the system ID, because I'm not sure in the context you mentioned that it's something unknown that the user will know what value to put in the namespace field, in the instance field, in the type field, in the resource ID.
Yeah, if it's unknown, then
Unless
you leave
it
it.
generate a complex,
No, no, you
this
leave it
URN will
empty.
be
No,
very
you leave it
complex.
empty. You leave it empty if you don't know it. So it's just colon colon basically.
You are so you have to classify every URN is not a AWS ARN. Maybe you are more influenced by your background in AWS, but it's not how your URN are defined by default.
Mm.
In the case of AWS, everything is strict, and they know exactly the scope, and they define what available value are for each segment. But in your in the discussion, you just say that it can be anything, in fact,
No, I'm pretty
because it's for
sure.
unknown stuff.
No, I'm not saying that. No, that's a straw man. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if you don't know, right, you put it empty, right? But if you do know, you put something, right? Like, but you have to put something. Like, I'm not saying you just don't put anything, right? Otherwise you don't send a link because you don't know, right? Um, so I think let me see, because when I looked up, it's been a while since I looked. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, earn is so generic, right? Like it, yeah, like it. This is it completely works. It just has the earn. All it needs to satisfy is that you have namespace identifiers and namespace specific string. That is the limitation of it. So, like that is as simple as it gets, right? So they have no restrictions. So I'm going to the RFC right now because I actually read the RFC when I was actually making this because I wanted to make sure I was using it appropriately, but I could have misread something. Um, mm, mm, mm.
To be honest, I read an abstract, Wikipedia and MSDN, because the full spec was, when I dig into URI and URN to validate, there is too much part mixed.
Mm, I think we should only be looking at the syntax, though, right? Like, because
Yes.
that's pretty known, right? So yeah, yeah, this should work. Like, yeah, this is not breaking any earn RFCs that I can see. I'll do a little bit more searching, but I don't think that is the case. Um, but with that said, right? So it sounds like you just don't know how you're going to resolve it if we make it this format, right? Which is like earn provider namespace, et cetera, because there's no boundaries. That's really what it comes down to is that you're worried that there's no boundaries. And honestly, that's a good concern to have, right? So, but my the boundaries that you're proposing, though, I think goes too far to the extreme. So I think we need to find something that satisfies the boundaries, like you're suggesting, but still allows for the flexibility of what the point of domain ID was for
My
heuristic.
concern is if we are too flexible and if the consumer cannot read it, it's useless and it will not be used.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, um,
I should be able to read and to know what is this information and how to manage it,
yeah,
and in a
well, that
consistent way. And as a producer, I have to ask me how I created it to be able for consumer to read it.
right, right.
So less ambiguity is it's the purpose,
Well,
reducing
yeah, I mean,
ambiguity and questioning it.
it's pretty not ambiguous, like to be honest, because it tells you like each component, like what it is. What you're worried about is that the component, though,
By example, it's not for if we go back to your sample, you have type, you have the field that you have You define URN as provider, namespace, instance,
Mhm.
type, and resource ID. But for type, in your examples, for type, for GitHub, you met PR.
Mhm.
What PR? What not pull? What not pull request? Why?
No, no,
It's what I mean by we should be we should specify and have no ambiguity, because if one provider say it's PR and another one say it's
yes,
pull,
yes, and I don't think you're hearing me because I said the thing that you care about is boundaries, and what I suggested was we need to figure out what those are is what I was getting at. So I think what it is I think you're taking what I'm saying as I don't agree with you. What I'm saying is I agree with you, but we shouldn't go to that extreme with your proposal of just encoding the subject ID. What I'm saying is we need to find something that adds those limits, but in a less strict sense. Does that make sense? So what I'm saying is like, PR, like you said, like pull, right? PR is we don't want that because now it allows for people to represent pull requests in many different shapes when it semantically means the same thing, right? So that is a problem. We need to fix that. So we need to go back when we were looking at this to, add some limitations. Like maybe we introduce like a set of known, types that exist, right? Maybe pull PR is pull request, ticket is ticket, right? And et cetera, et cetera. That might
it,
be a
it,
little, was that?
it's what I say. It's we go back like PRL to start to define a new kind of specification, and it could be take a lot of time.
Yeah,
It's my concern. It's
yeah, but that's my point, right? Either we can't make it too strict because that's not the purpose of domain ID, or if we want to give it some boundary, we have to add some sort of limitations, which again is coming up a list with values of like what these things are. Like pull request is represented as PR, for example, right? And if you don't want to do that, then you have to live with producers just sending however they want to send it, right? So you need to, we can't do the far right, which is URL encoding, because like I said, that's not the point of this. It's for when you don't know every piece of information.
uh, yes. Well, just to clarify
Mhm.
one point, because maybe I miss. We exclude for domain ID. We split domain ID are for non-CD event. So the discussion about using percentage, it's out of the scope. We Does we agree on this part to have maybe a subject type and subject um,
ID, yeah.
ID on the side.
Mhm.
It's context ID or domain ID or the tuple subject type, subject ID. So it means
Well,
domain ID
yeah,
is
yeah,
everything that is non-context ID or non-subject.
exactly. Yes.
Okay.
I think that is the easiest path forward because, like I said, like and that's why I didn't want to do a list of known types, is because you're right. It would take a long time. And I also didn't, like I said, like I didn't want to, couple it with subject ID because, like I said, they might not have all the pieces. So I was like, this is like the only solution I can think of is still making it structured, but with some limitations, right? Um, and to be fair, right, we can always add types, right? Like just a list of known types, like just really quickly, just like in the domain ID, just make it a regex, right, with like known types, and that becomes pretty trivial. We can just do PRs, PR or ticket alert, because we don't need to get everything like out of the box, right? Like we can just have like a small handful of types that are very common. And especially if we know if a lot of domain IDs are coming from one particular type, we can just make that a type, right? That might be easier. We don't have to get everything. We don't have to have 100% solution where we define everything out the box. But as long as we put those limitations in there, I think that might be a little bit easier. What do you think?
Yes. And if you you can reuse my proposition and remove subject and just have type
Yeah, I think that's
common
what I want to do. Yeah, exactly.
and URL of the resources, URI, and whatever it is, it depends of the provider. It depends of the yes provider. I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah. So I think what we can do too is another thing we can do for domain ID is no, I feel like that's overloading it. Okay, let me think about it some, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to update this proposal with a list of known types. Just start with a small handful because I know internally what we need. And so I think we can start there. And if you run into something that you need, you can always add it, right? So I think that might be a little bit easier, like just have it as a regex, right?
Yes, it's also why I put the sample. If those type are not types that are CDEvent subject type,
Mhm.
it makes sense. But if we have an overlap between the two group, it's why I say maybe we can switch to my first proposal, because it will also help us to clarify how we should
Right,
create
right.
an ID. A long
So
discussion that we have also in the past.
are you okay then just changing type to just subject type? Is that the
No,
idea?
no, no, the opposite. To change subject type to just type and ID. It's what you mean. Maybe
Hmm.
we don't speak about the same URN.
No, no, we're talking about two different URNs. I see what you're saying though. Do I like that? Okay, let me think about this
Yeah.
because like I said, the whole purpose for the domain ID was to be heuristic, right? But you're right, right? It's too flexible right now, right? And when things are too flexible, they're useless, right? So that's definitely a good call out. And I know my tone when I'm talking, it sounds like I'm disagreeing with you, but I
No.
agree with you, David. But I'm just like, but what is the right solution is where my mind's at, right? And that's what I'm trying to figure out. So let me sit on it a little bit and we can figure it out. I'll ping you again next week because I need to think about this some because we need to be careful here where it's still flexible enough and we're able to achieve the heuristics that we need, but still strict enough where we don't make it completely useless or make the consuming systems very difficult to resolve, right? So
Yes. And maybe and maybe we also need to kind of stuff. I will go back to one of your response about relation when
mhm,
you said that I could use it to test against, runs in, deploy to, etc.
mhm,
To be more largest than the purpose I think of.
mhm.
Just because for the way I read the links at the beginning is it's links between events, not
Yes.
links between subject. And in my case, what I try to create is links between subject and entity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see.
It's so it's exactly why I asked this question is as I want to create links between a test and an artifact, a test and an environment, etc. Should I use links or not for this purpose? Because
I see. I see. So,
some of these links are defined as part are mandatory. It's what we have in the subject content today, but I would like to have some optional ones because it depends of the context. We have the info, we don't have the info. Sometimes we test an artifact, sometimes we test a service,
mhm,
sometimes we are not, etc., etc. So it's also why I oriented my proposal to be able to put subject type and subject ID. But if we don't have, if we say no, links between subject is not part of context links, and context links is just about links between context and the event to create the chain. That's the purpose of links at the beginning. It's to create the chain of events in reality.
Yes. Yeah, but
So
that's not to say, and like I said, that's why I wanted domain ID to be flexible, because that was one of the use cases as well, is where you might not be linking directly to another event, right? And that's why I wanted type to be flexible, because you might be linking to something that, CDEvents doesn't represent, right? You would use a domain ID for that, was the point. Um, but yeah, sorry, I didn't know that's what you were trying to solve. But yeah, that was the part of the use case that domain ID was also solving for.
okay,
So
okay,
with that said, so what I mean by that is there are, as you know, four different types of links. There's link start to initiate a start of a workflow. There is a link end to signal termination. This is very useful for Dora. That's why link end exists. Um, Link path is pathways between events. Link relations is any relationship to both a CD event and with domain ID, any resource, basically, whether that resource is another event or it's another, type of resource that CD event isn't familiar with as well. And that was the purpose of that was the reason why it was so flexible.
okay. So relation, so relation links of type relation can be used to that. Okay.
Yep, yep. Yeah.
Because
So
I also look at RDF because in the past I look at semantic database, so I'm aware of relation. I don't frame RDF. It's
mhm.
verb, subject, verb, action, complement. I don't remember the name.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I read about
It's to
that a
create
long
this
time.
kind of
Yeah, yeah.
relation database graph,
Mhm.
semantic data object graph. So it's what
So
I try to resolve. Okay.
yeah, so if we go back though to your question of like linking back to a non-event, does domain ID not satisfy that? I feel like it does. But your original question was something, about more structure. But like I said, with how it is, it should satisfy what you need today, right?
Can you repeat?
So you said that you want to link to non-events, right? With the domain ID, with how it is written right now, proposal-wise, it should be able to satisfy that, right?
Yes, but it will require a lot of work for me to convert to define to derive subject ID to create the link behind the scene.
I see. Okay. Oh, but
It's
you're always linking to a subject ID. So if we just have subject ID in there, then that should fix that, right?
yes, I use subject ID today because it's the only information I have in the evidence store. I
Ah,
have
gotcha, gotcha. Okay, okay. I see.
entities have an ID that is the subject ID,
Hmm.
and it's how today I link between a service, an artifact, an environment, and in the future, it's what I would like to be able. It's to be able to say, hey, this test is running against this artifact, and
Yes, that's the purpose of relation.
this test was hosted in this repository,
Hmm.
and this test, etc., and to be able to derive the full life cycle
Hmm.
without having a chain ID, full links that we have
Yeah,
today.
yeah.
Because today it's a set of unrelated events generated by unrelated system,
Hmm.
and some of those systems are not triggered by maybe an event.
Yeah, yeah.
In the past, I have tests that are running by a scheduler. So it's every day we run the conformance test
Hmm.
on the environment. And in the life cycle, I want to be able this environment was validated or not. For example, it's one of the use cases.
Hmm. Okay, okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that should work by just introducing subject ID for also target. So that should work for you. So I'll create another PR for that.
Subject and type, ID and type.
Well, subject ID, we have a PR that's gonna subject type is gonna be in subject ID, right?
No,
Oh, wait, I thought we talked about that last week. Did we not?
No, we merge source and subject ID to have a
Oh, you're
global ID,
right. You're right.
but
That's
not
why
the
I'm
type.
so confused. I thought we
It's
merged subject type. That's why I was so confused this whole time. I'm like, I thought we figured this out. That makes
if if we merge, okay, but today it's not the case. And if we merge, I will use the URN I propose. In fact, this URN comes when I dig to say, hey, how can we merge? And so, and because I also look on URN on another research, I have
right,
this
right.
this collision, this idea collision. But today, the idea of subject ID is to be per type, I could say.
Gotcha,
So
gotcha. Okay, so yeah, I'll add a subject field that has both type and ID in there. I think that might
yes,
be a little bit easier. And then for domain ID, what I think I'm gonna do is I'll think about it some, but I think yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's a good balance. I'll like I said, I'll think about it some, and we'll talk about it again next week because I do understand the flexibility nature of things, and I don't like that. Um, but solving it, my worry is that we have to, and I think if we make it if we make type subject type, that might be a little bit more helpful. Um, let me do that. Let me make type subject type, and I think domain IDs could work because now you have the tool, you have like the namespace, which is like typically the repo name, right? Then you have but then we have the instance. Yeah, instance is a repo, which we don't have a concept of that in CD event. That's not a subject type. Um, okay, so there's still issue there. Um,
but maybe we don't we don't need it.
I was
It's
just gonna say, do we need it though? Okay, let me think about. I think we don't need it, but I want because I have a bunch of use cases that I've written down, and I just need to make sure that it works for all of them. I mean, they're internal, that's why I didn't share it. So let me run through the getting. I think there was a reason why I added it. I just can't remember why exactly. Okay, but either way, this needs work. So let me address the flexibility nature of it, but where it's not too crazy. There's some structure, but we want to still reel in a little bit of that flexibility per enum, basically. Um, and okay, does that help? Does that make sense? I think that's a good goal.
yes.
Okay. All right, awesome, awesome. All right, I forgot
I
to share
just
my
try to.
screen. Okay, let me. Okay, we forgot to do this. Sorry. Uh, okay. Whoops. All right, March 10th. All right. And then oh, the approval event. Okay, was there any issues with the approval event? I updated the enums to let me find it again.
Uh, to be honest, I didn't review the last change, but as I mentioned, for me, just the missing part was the example.
Yeah, so let me show you what I did, just kind of, because I would like to get this approved. Because, like I said, we're going to vote on it like right now, basically. So here's the updates that I did, which this is the URI reference, and then I also changed comment to description, which is what you asked for, and
Yes.
I changed approved. This is all lowercase now. And yeah, so that was all the comments that you had. So if this looks good, if you could approve that, and then we can go ahead and merge it. I don't know why this broke.
Yes. I'm not a blocker because I'm not part of the report, so it just
Oh,
somebody.
really? Yeah,
Yes.
no worries, no worries, no worries. I'll once it's approved, I can just tell Andrea, hey, this got approved. Let's merge it in. Okay, so there's some JSON linting things I gotta fix. Okay, I'll fix that real quick. But yeah, once that looks good, yeah, if you could just approve that, I can ping Andrea. I'll fix the linting issues, and then we can move forward. And we can merge this in. All right, so I'll just say you approved it.
Uh, there is still a missing part. It's the conformance sample.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Right. Okay. Data contingent approval depends on conformance example. Okay, yeah, I will add that. So if you could just approve this, because like I said, I'm not going to merge it in until Andre gives me the okay, but I'll go ahead and add that after meeting if that works for you.
Yes, I will approve. So it
Okay,
will be okay.
cool. Awesome. So I will go ahead and do that. And then there was something else I wanted to talk about. Automation. What is this? Oh, that's that old PR. We should probably close this actually.
No.
Really? Why? Because this is
Um,
Python, right?
yes, it's Python, but with this, keep, I will add a comment to say that I will do a PR to rewrite it in JavaScript to follow.
Okay. All right. That works
Not
for me
to-
then. All right. I will put that
So
also.
having it open, if I
This
involve in it,
helps.
I will have
Yeah.
a reminder.
Let's see.
And about the proposal for the merge of subject source into subject ID, I still have some questions because it was part of the original proposal. So I send you to you and Andreas the question the questions as comment
Yeah.
as last comment.
Where did that go? Do you remember the issue ID? I don't.
252, I guess.
Let me see. All right. Let's see. Okay.
Because it was also a discussion about how we use its subject ID, but it's also how we reference.
Reference it.
So
Yeah.
should we use blah 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 ID or blah 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 sub ID? Because today we have artifact ID and some place and environment.id in some other place. So I would like to use this opportunity to consolidate and use the same syntax
Yeah.
to be consistent.
Let's just make it camel case for now. Mostly because I think everything else is camel case. I don't do you know of any?
No, when I say .id, it's because today it's a subfield
Yeah.
because
I
we
mean,
have
logic,
ID and
like
source.
structurally, yeah,
Yes,
structurally it makes sense, but we don't do that today though, right? Like, I don't think I've seen anything with a dot anything. Have you?
we have environment, we have service on some points, I guess, for ticket.
Oh, in the schema, really?
Yes, we are not consistent between some of them. Artifact ID, I guess, is the only one with camel case because there is no source in the case of artifact. But
Where are you
for
seeing
other,
this?
we have a
This
struct. If you look into service, go to service by example.
okay, service? Oh, you mean in the schema, or do you mean this or in the conformance?
Service published.
Okay.
Yeah, service published should be okay. If you look into the content, you see environment is a struct with ID and source,
Oh,
but artifact
I see
is a
what you're saying. Sorry, you didn't mean like environment dot ID. You literally meant like an object. Okay.
yes.
Um, I'm in favor of more strongly typed things. I I know Andrea doesn't really like that, and we just talked about this right with the links. I said, oh, subject should probably be subject ID and subject type in an object, right? Um,
But because today we no longer with this proposal,
yeah,
source are removed, and we have this inconsistency between sometimes it's ID
yeah.
camel case and sometimes it's the struct.
Yeah, actually, let's do an object, and I'll give you my thinking as to why. So if we do an object, we can
Comment
add.
on the ticket because
Oh, okay.
if we for consistency, if we keep an object, in this case I mean I will change artifact ID to become an object to be
Hmm.
consistent. And if we go to a string and not an object, then it means I will change environment, and I think maybe services is also a reference as an object.
Gotcha, gotcha. I'm in favor of it, but if it's a lot of changes, I don't know if it's worth doing though.
Yes, it's a lot of change, and also for me on CDVs, because I rely a lot on artifact ID to for correlation and stuff, but it's not.
Okay, let's keep it backwards compatible then. Let's actually, how about this?
We will already break a lot of stuff. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, how about this?
I'm looking for to having this consistency, but maybe you can say just remove and keep field as it is for this version
Yeah,
0.6.
what I was going to suggest is this, is that we would break a lot of things and a lot of people. I would much rather
To be to one point. Uh, if you know user of CD event, because you say we will break for a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
people, I really want to know about them. If you have a so if we have some
Yeah,
kind
well,
of
I
list
mean,
and
by
similar,
break a lot of people, I mean like internally as well as well, like not so
but it means that those people also have to upgrade to version uh, 0 dot blah blah
yeah,
to
yeah,
the next
yeah.
version. Today, I
Okay.
say, by example, TestCube, Jenkins use an old version of CDEvent, to be clear.
Yeah,
And as
yeah.
part of CDVs, it's not released yet. No, it's not fully. It's not. It will be released this week. I create a function uh, to convert forward today to convert to the next version of CDEvent. So it's to have a consistent output. I mean, if I receive 0.3,
Yeah, yeah.
I will generate in output 0.4 or 0.5. It's not released because I have to update the database to support 0.5 also, in my case.
Yeah. So I think what we do is we just have legacy fields that are camel case. Any new fields must follow object. Like if we have any sort of camel casing, like with ID or anything, we need to look at seeing if that makes sense as an object or if it's camel case because it's actually a noun that's represented as two words, right? I think that's a better approach. What do you think? And then when we look to, in the future, when we want to like go back and like fix all this, like version 2.0, for example, we can then go back and make all those objects. I think that's a better way of doing that.
For me, object is interesting if you have multiple field, but it's also some kind of generate some kind of confusion because in reality it's a partial structure. If we say it's service, in reality what we want is just the ID. It's not all the field of us, maybe a service, and it creates also complexity when we for the SDK, for database, for parser, etc. Because we create a deep structure just for one field.
Yeah, but that's minimal though. And deep is like one level, right? So I'm not worried about that. I'm more the benefit. So the benefits that we gain with an object is that we can always add more to it without prefixing. It groups things very, very nicely. But in terms of machines, they don't really care, right? So it's only for human readability. Um, so I'm not, I guess what it comes down to for me, I just want it for, I just want this for mostly readability and forward compatibility of like being able to add extra metadata. But it also doesn't mean we can already do those things with camel casing as well or prefixing because if we need to add metadata, we just prefix it, right? It's just harder to read. So I'm arguing just strictly from a readability standpoint. Um, and I don't think I'm not married to any particular one, though, is what I'm getting at. If we want to make it objects, it's strictly for readability. I don't really think there's a benefit otherwise. If we do prefixing, like camel casing with the prefix, we lose readability, but by how much? Not much, right? So I'm more in
No,
favor. What's that?
because it's also with camel case in this particular case, it generates also a more compact JSON. So it's also faster to read and to scan for
Yeah,
humans.
yeah, but again, that's like very small though. Like we're talking about like if it's one field, right? It's like just a squiggly bracket
Yes,
and a
only
close. So I'm not too worried about that. Like I mean, if it was like a deep nesting, I'd be like, yeah, we need to figure this out. But just a one level nest, I think we're okay. And I think it's more from like I said, I think it's more from a readability standpoint, but I don't think you gain that much readability. So, like I said, I'm much more in favor of how we do it today. If most of us, if most of the events are represented via camel case, we should probably start doing that for new events going forward. We just need to choose one, right? Old legacy events can, or all old legacy fields can remain the same as is, but new fields must, follow the structure of whatever it may be, right?
the issue is today that we have both or maybe three way to define this type. So it was the opportunity to define a policy and to say what is.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I'm arguing that, well, my argument is whatever we do most today. So if most of it is camel case,
Yeah, I'm not sure. Today, in camel case, we have only artifact ID. Maybe for the struct, we have just service and environment that, and maybe we have another pseudo camel case that is ticket URI. That is another way also. If for reference, I talk about how to reference stuff.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Well,
Yes,
yeah, we have
it's ticket URI.
gotcha, gotcha.
In an incident, we reference a ticket via ticket URI. So it's a three-way to create reference to another subject.
Right, right. Well, not really, right? Like what I mean by that is ticket or something URI says it's an identifier with this format. ID just means it's an identifier in any format, right? So I think one is more semantically strict than the other, right? So
It's also why in this ticket I ask, should we keep subject ID, or should it's the second question, or should I rename ID and source into URI?
URI, it could be
Because
possible that it is okay.
a
Ugh.
lot of questions,
Yeah. Well,
breaking
no.
change.
Well, the reason why I went because I realized that you're because Yuri is pretty flexible on what it can look like. It could be a relative path that technically you could represent anything as a Yuri, like for all the use
Yes,
cases that I'm thinking about. So, um, the only thing that you wouldn't be able to is, I think. So the only thing that you wouldn't be able to represent it is um if it isn't a location somewhere, which
it's our today I use URI reference. So I mean, I
yeah,
just with URI reference, it's just a pass.
yeah.
For
Um
service, today, for me, it's just a pass. The namespace in a cluster,
right, right.
the deployment, and
Actually,
maybe the container name. And I use a
let's
slash as separator.
yeah, let me I'm actually no, we can't make it Yuri. Wait, no, we
And
can't make it Yuri. No, we can. Like the use case something about would satisfy a Yuri constraint.
and it will become a URI because source today is a URI or a URI
Yeah,
reference.
yeah.
So if we merge them, it's part of the proposal. What will happen? It's for the migration. it's I will concatenate ID to subject source with a slash.
Yeah.
It's part of the migration in the proposal.
Okay. So if we change ID to URI, man, that's going to break a lot of people though.
No, because it will add a constraint, but it will not break because today it's a string.
No, no, no. Oh,
Ah,
wait.
the name of the field.
Name.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
yes. It's also why I say I'm more in the ID to keep it as ID and to say it's a URI and the format is URI. A
Yeah.
URI reference.
Yeah. Okay, let's hold off on that. Let me test it internally. I have a bunch of tests. Let me test it internally just to make sure that nothing breaks. Um, I have a feeling it's okay though. But okay. Um,
I raised this point because before doing all the PR, I would like to clarify those points, and because I created this issue several months ago, I'm sure you didn't reread
everything. Yeah, yeah.
at least the proposal. I updated the proposal in the past, but I'm
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
you.
yeah. Okay. Um,
And when we agree, I will update the proposal at the top before doing the
I
PR.
wonder if it makes sense just to deprecate the field for now and just rename it.
We don't have a way to deprecate.
I know. I'm saying maybe we figure that out. And because like technically naming it Yuri with a suffix Yuri is actually the best change, right? Like that's the best path
Yes,
forward. But
yes.
that's the biggest like that's gonna literally break everyone. Like everyone uses subject ID, right? So yeah, that's
And it will also impact your PR on link.
yeah, it will, yeah. Okay, okay. Let's all right, let's table this for now. Because we're literally we only have a minute. Um,
Yes,
but let's just make it camel case for now. Something I camel case with ID, and we need to figure out. I really want to call it Yuri, something Yuri in the future, but unfortunately, we already committed to this, so I feel like we have to live with it, unless we do a version two, because like it isn't the worst thing. Like the benefit that we gain is that when you look at it, you know exactly what it is just from the name. But they could, if you add the constraint like you were suggesting, like in format, that would also make it clear. So I'm wondering if we just do that and just live with it that it's camel case ID for now. I think that might be the best path forward. What do you think?
yes, oh, yes.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean, like I said, it's just a decision we made in the past, and it's unfortunate,
yeah.
but we have to. I feel like we have to live with it. So,
I,
um,
I would like just to mention that to add this ticket, I ping you
oh, you
to
did?
add this into your to-do list
Okay, okay,
for before. It's no, we don't need to answer it today. No, no
okay,
urgency.
okay. Yeah, works for me. Yeah, I'll put this. We'll revisit. Um, I'm gonna say revisit. Revisit next
Before
week.
we end, because we are it's time.
Mhm.
I would like to answer. I'm not sure you see my reply to your question to your on Slack.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I would like to let me send you a meeting. I'll send you a
Yes.
meeting for next week, and then we can talk about it. All right?
Okay.
All right, sounds good. All right, David, I'll talk to you then, all right? Sound good?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I'll talk to you later then. Have a good one.
Bye. Thank you.
All right, bye. Thank you.